Now, I try to hide this on this channel, but at heart, I'm very much a hater. Not in a bully kind of way, but in like a fun and silly, keep it to myself kind of way. You know, being a hater and being a bully are two different things. I'm a hater. And one of the things that I have long been a hater of, oh, I'm moving my pole thing, is the reliance on nostalgia in our current culture. And to me, the things that annoyed me were like the 80s nostalgia revival, which had kids like my age and younger nostalgic for a time they never experienced. And you see, you know, grown men freaking out about like, oh, they don't make them like they do anymore, and they're talking about Ghostbusters or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that sacred, you just watched it when you were 10. Now, I've always, you know, thought I was above that. Like everyone, I'm absolutely not, and, you know, to be a true good conscience hater, you have to recognize when you were wrong. And I'm wrong in this situation. I'm sorry to every man I have ever scoffed at for getting a little too excited about Star Wars. I'm sorry. Okay, I apologize. Because as I am rapidly approaching age 30, I have found myself really clinging to nostalgia literally in the past like 2 months in a way that I never have before. And for me, the two main things that I have been nostalgically partaking in are the Kingdom Hearts series, which was pretty much the only video game series I actually played as a child. I was not as much of a gamer girl as a kid as I am now, probably because of internalized misogyny. Ugh.
Got it memorized?
So I am replaying the Kingdom Hearts games right now, and it's messing with my brain a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm feeling a lot of feelings. If I think about the music too much, I will start crying. Anyway, and the second thing, which is the point of this video, I'm not talking about Kingdom Hearts on my internet horror YouTube channel, although I bet I could find a way to make it work because it is my channel and I can do what I want.
Got it memorized?
But no, the second nostalgic thing I've been partaking in is Courage the Cowardly Dog, which was one of my absolute favorite cartoons as a kid. So, my husband has never watched Courage the Cowardly Dog, so I have been showing it to him. We're watching the entire series, and it's been so delightful to revisit it. And the thing that's funny is, despite the fact that I stand before you on a horror-themed YouTube channel, I was a pussy as a child. I was so skittish and scared of everything. Like, Scooby-Doo scared me. I've talked about this on this channel before. I don't remember specifically what video, but like, I was very betrayed by Scooby-Doo because it was always some old middle-aged white man just like doing like, you know, tax fraud or something. But then Scooby-Doo Zombie Island changed everything and they were real, and I was betrayed and I didn't know who to trust anymore. So, for some reason, my little scared ass loved Courage the Cowardly Dog. I guess the way that the horror was conveyed was like silly enough or sincere enough that I was okay. Maybe I viewed myself in Courage because he's a little scared bitch just like myself. I don't know. Regardless, my dad and I would watch Courage the Cowardly Dog religiously. And it wasn't until I sat down and rewatched it at my big age right now that I realized it is so responsible for my interests in everything I cover on this channel. It is so internet horror coded in like every way that I couldn't not talk about it. So that's what we're going to do today. Is we're going to look at how Courage the Cowardly Dog and Creepypasta specifically, but it really, there's a lot about Courage that lines up with modern internet horror, are like intrinsically linked, probably completely unintentionally, and is most of this just me being that picture of Charlie Kelly on the conspiracy board? Yes. But once again, as I always say, it is my YouTube channel, so I can do what I want.
Got it memorized?
Who am I? Why do we care about me? Because it's my channel. Again, you clicked on the video. Ugh. My name is glitchwish.jpg. I make videos about internet horror, analog horror, digital horror, creepypasta, ARGs, internet urban legends, sometimes survival horror video games, and am I trying to find a way to weasel in a Kingdom Hearts video essay and still make it fit with horror? Yes, I am. I'm not there yet, but I'll get there. And you'll know, because you'll see it show up in your feed. I love to talk about internet horror, and I love when I can, you know, deviate from my standard just like current series analysis to do something batshit like this. This was a lot of fun to take notes for. So, before we get into comparing Courage and Creepypasta, let's start. What the heck is Courage the Cowardly Dog? Some of you watching this may literally be too young to have ever watched this show or even heard of it because it ran from 1999 to 2002. I definitely didn't watch it when it aired. I saw reruns on Cartoon Network and like would record them on my DVR because I was like 5 and that might have been a little too much for me when I was 5. Courage the Cowardly Dog was a show that aired on Cartoon Network from 1999 to 2002. It was created by American animator John R. Dilworth, who I believe he directed every single episode, if I'm not mistaken. And it started actually in '96 with a short film called The Chicken from Outer Space that ended up being the pilot. It was used to pitch it to Cartoon Network and become the full series. But something that I didn't know until I did research for this video is that The Chicken from Outer Space was nominated for an Academy Award. That's right. Courage the Cowardly Dog was at the Oscars. And he lost to Wallace and Gromit, which if you're gonna lose an Academy Award as an animated project, losing it to Aardman and Wallace and Gromit is like an honor. So like, I mean, it's pitting two doggy divas against each other, okay? Which is never fun. But essentially, Courage the Cowardly Dog follows the titular Courage the Cowardly Dog. He is adopted by a sweet old lady named Muriel Bagg, who lives in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, with her irritable husband, Eustace Bagg, and just weird shit happens in the middle of nowhere, because it's the middle of nowhere, right? So it's essentially a Monster of the Week setup. Something weird comes to them on the farm, or they go somewhere and something weird happens. There are some recurring, like, baddies, but typically it's a new villain each week. Courage is very anxious, very nervous. I think that's why I loved him so much. I saw myself in him. And he always wants to make sure that Muriel is okay. And to a lesser extent, Eustace. He cares about Eustace because Muriel does, but Eustace hates Courage. He is constantly scaring him and calling him stupid dog. And he's like kind of jealous of the attention that Muriel gives him. Listen, we all have older people in our family that behave like Eustace and Muriel. And let's just say that my dad and I certainly did. And it was a cathartic experience watching Courage the Cowardly Dog for all involved. For me, it's a very special show because it really is the first scary thing that I liked. I spent so much of my life being terrified of anything remotely scary. And I just think I already said it, but like there's a weird like sincerity and like charm to Courage the Cowardly Dog that even though like some of the designs of the villains are absolutely terrifying, Courage is such a like empathetic main character, especially for an anxious little freak child like myself, that like I felt safe because I knew always that he was gonna be okay and Muriel was gonna be okay. And I think it's the idea of like, if Courage can be brave, then I can be brave. So I think that's why it probably worked as like a gateway to horror for me. And honestly, I stayed away from horror for a long time after that. I've talked about it before, but I didn't really properly get into horror until like high school when I saw the Blair Witch Project. But I do think that Courage the Cowardly Dog and then the Blair Witch Project being my primers for horror makes a lot of sense for why I am talking about all the things I talk about on this channel. Like, it just makes sense. Now, let's dip over to Creepypasta, the other topic that we're talking about in this video. I don't want to assume you know what Creepypasta is, because maybe you're a die-hard Courage fan that found this video and you don't know what a Creepypasta is. So, Creepypasta is a form of internet horror that first appeared in 2001. It's argued if that's the case, but I'm gonna go, that's what I view. Ted the Caver came out in 2001. It was a blog post written on Angel Fire over a period of time where this man who was a caver said he found a weird-ass cave that was unexplored, and essentially he had a final update being like, I'm going back to the cave, I'll update you, and then he never updated, so everyone thought it was real, and then he died. It's very much blog post version of Blair Witch Project, you know what I mean? So that is considered the original creepypasta. I am a person that considers that the original creepypasta, and I do think it is not very representative of what would become creepypasta. Just as I think found footage has evolved a lot since the Blair Witch Project. I think when a lot of people think of creepypasta now, they think of stories like Jeff the Killer, and Smile Dog, and Slender Man, and Candle Cove, and those are of varying quality. Some of the ones I just listed, bangers. Like, peak narrative fiction. Some of them, not so much. And these stories often show up on online forums. The term creepypasta is derived from copypasta, which are, phrases or stories that people would copy and paste. And that's how they would get spread. So, copy, paste, copy, pasta, creepy, copy and paste, creepypasta. So it's like the stupidest name ever, but like it makes sense. And creepypasta is an often bullied genre of internet horror. I and many others are trying to reclaim the creepypasta and prove that it's not that bad. It's pretty good, actually. If you want to look to some people who are trying to honor the creepypasta, the YouTuber Pastra is doing a whole thing right now on creepypastas. He recently rewrote Jeff the Killer. And then one of my favorite podcasts of all time is Creepcast, which is hosted by Wendigoon and Meat Canyon, and they do a great job highlighting both the bad, silly, ridiculous creepypastas and also some of the best creepypastas that I think a lot of people maybe aren't aware of. So, there's a lot going on with creepypasta. But I think that there are certain elements of Courage the Cowardly Dog and specific episodes that follow the tropes and stereotypes of like golden age creepypasta to like a disturbing degree, and I had to make a video on it, okay? How could I not? So let's get into that. I said earlier, I have been shocked watching this show, realizing how much it wired my brain chemistry for things that I like. I forgot that all of the backgrounds in Courage the Cowardly Dog are literally like JPEGs. Like it's a real photograph of carpet, it's a real photograph of the sky, it's a real photograph of the Statue of Liberty. Whatever it is, it's pictures with this crazy, bright, gradient shaded animation over top that feels almost like a point and click game of that era, and it's just so delightful. But you look at modern like analog and digital horrors and you see similar vibes, like with the Walton Files or Polished Mercury, things like that. And like, I'm not saying that they're pulling right from Courage, but it makes sense to me why I am drawn to these things. Like, it's just really cool to see that this weird type of horror that's like scary, spooky, but also very charming and thoughtful existed for me as a kid just as it exists for me now. And I know that a lot of people that consume internet horror are younger, not as young as I probably was when I was watching Courage the Cowardly Dog, but I'm just glad that it still exists for kids out there today. Some episodes of Courage are very clearly homages to classic science fiction and horror films, and that's great. I love those because I think they're a great way to expose young people to these genre tropes and get them interested in horror, which I think eventually kind of happened with me. It obviously took its time, but to me, the gems of Courage are the batshit original ideas, because these feel kind of like the golden age creepypasta, except I want you guys to know that are familiar with Creepypasta. When I say this, I'm saying that Courage does it well, and a lot of Golden Age Creepypasta doesn't, because Courage is a horror comedy, and the Creepypastas are not supposed to be funny. That is the main difference. So I want you to know, I am firmly applauding Courage the Cowardly Dog for its ingenious fusion of horror comedy, and, you know, I'm not trashing the creepypastas. The thing about creepypasta is 90% of it was written by young people who are in their feelings. If you want to hear me talk about that at length, watch my Carmen Winstead video. I go a lot into that and why I think creepypasta is a very important formative art form for people my age when they were younger. But there is one episode so far. Again, I'm rewatching, so I'm gonna make this a series. We'll see. I don't know. Depends on if you guys like it. There's one episode in season 1 that made me literally say out loud, "This is a creepypasta." That would be season 1, episode 4B, Freaky Fred. And if y'all don't think I'm gonna use that goddamn freaky font over and over and over in this video and age the hell out of this video so that when I'm popular and famous in 2 years and everyone goes back and rewatches my videos and say, "Oh god, I remember when freaky was a meme," I don't care. I'm gonna date this video that way. I'm sorry, I just rewatched Freaky Fred again this morning and I can't not laugh, both because I'm uncomfortable and because it's freaking funny. So, Freaky Fred is about Muriel's nephew, Fred, who is a barber, and he's coming to visit them in the middle of nowhere, and the entire episode is narrated by Fred in this kind of like nursery rhyme poetry setup. And Muriel's excited that Fred is coming. Eustace does not like him, which, as the audience, that means nothing to us because Eustace doesn't like anything or anyone. So automatically you're not like assuming Fred is bad, but the way that he talks is unnerving, and he ends every sentence by saying that he is naughty. So like, yeah, there's some red flags for sure. Courage is nervous because Eustace is like calling him a freak, saying he's a freaky barber that owns a freaky barber shop. So he comes and yeah, bro's weird.
I thought just how excited they must be that I would come today. They'd shout, "Come Fred, huzzah, hooray! Dear boy, you look so naughty."
Ah, Fred, my dear nephew, what brings you to our cozy corner of the world?
Holiday.
Courage! Come and meet Fred!
That's when my tired eyes beheld a doggy dog. Like dog he smelled. D-O-G is what he spelled, and that's how I spell naughty.
Don't know what to say other than bro's weird as hell. And Courage is terrified of him, which is standard. And essentially, Courage ends up getting locked in the bathroom with Fred, who proceeds to continually attempt to shave Courage, because when Fred says that he's going to do something naughty, he means shave people. So he goes through this whole little poems about how he shaved his hamster, he shaved his girlfriend, he shaved people at his barbershop more than they wanted to be shaved, and essentially he has a compulsion to shave people. Except he won't shave Courage's tail because that's weird. We love a king that has a boundary that he'll stop at. But the funniest part of the entire episode to me is that Courage sees that Fred has a like a hospital wristband on that says "Home for Freaky Barbers" and a phone number. So Courage calls the Home for Freaky Barbers and they drag him away as if it's like a mental institution. But I love the concept that there are enough freaky barbers in this world that there is a home for them. So yes, Fred escaped the home for freaky barbers to come and see his Aunt Muriel and shave her dog. But, you know, he's fine. He's chill. Like, he's not mad. He doesn't resist. He got to shave a dog. He shaved his signature into courage, and he left. So, do you love how I just explained that plot like it's normal? But yeah, that's Freaky Fred. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you a list of tropes that exist within this specific episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog and within Creepypasta, the genre, and then I'm going to break down each one of those tropes to explain to you where I'm coming from. I think this works as a structure. We're winging it today, folks. I just wanted to talk about Freaky Fred. Y'all, I don't know. Freaky. Okay, so here is my list of tropes. Weird-ass main character that the story is named after. Subverting something childish or innocent. A young protagonist. Other characters not taking the threat or concerns from the protagonist seriously. The story covering a real-world issue that is too heavy for the material. And genuinely riding the line between being bone-chilling and stupid as So, let's go through those and talk about how they are present in Freaky Fred and how they are present in the genre of creepypasta. Let's start small here. Weird-ass main character that the story is named after. So, his name is Freaky Fred. You could give me a lineup of Jeff the Killer, Smiling Jack, Ben Drowned, Smile Dog, and throw Freaky Fred in there, and I wouldn't question it for a second, okay? And that's the thing that makes a lot of the shittier creepypastas memorable, is that main character that's kind of unforgettable. Jeff the Killer's a bad creepypasta, but you remember Jeff the Killer, you know what I'm saying? And that's not me saying all those creepypastas I just named are bad. I'm a Smile Dog defender. Okay? I don't hate Smile Dog either. I haven't read it in a long time, though, so maybe I regret that. Maybe I should watch my tone. I think Fred is a lot better than all of these characters, and I think the story and the character are good. He is not, like, his design or whatever isn't the thing that makes the story cool. The whole story is cool. But, like, the mother name is Freaky Fred. Like, that is a creepypasta name, and he looks like a creepypasta character. Okay, next we have subverting something innocent. This is classic creepypasta, but in this case, in Freaky Fred, it's the structure of like the nursery rhyme or the poetry or the rhyming feels like a storybook, but the person telling the story is kind of the villain. So that subverts it. He's naughty and all that. And you know, you see this in creepypasta all the time. You have Majora's Mask being corrupted in Ben Drowned, which, yeah, like, listen, I know Majora's Mask is scary in the first place, but they make it scarier, and it is a game aimed at children, beloved by everyone. I'm not judging. Did I not start the episode saying that my ass is playing Kingdom Hearts right now?
Got it memorized?
And then you have, like, Mr. Bear in 1999, is a great example of that. And literally any lost episode of creepypasta, because they're almost always kids things, you know. End of Life Mouse.avi, Squidward's End of Life, Sonic.exe, that's not an episode, that's a cartridge, but any of those, you know what I mean? It's corrupting something that we're nostalgic for. A young protagonist. Now, Courage, I don't know how old he is. He's a dog, but he is essentially Muriel's son. A lot of people, a lot of the characters in Courage will, like, address him as the kid or your son to Muriel, which I think is funny. And while protagonists in creepypastas aren't always children, you often see it written from the point of view of someone reminiscing on when they were a child, like with 1999, or Pen Pal, things like that. But even when they aren't supposed to be children, sometimes you can tell they're written by children. Which that's not the case for Courage, obviously. It's more that he is a kid in this situation. And yes, there are, of course, exceptions, but I'm going off of tropes and stereotypes here. Other characters not taking the fear of the protagonist seriously. I mean, that's the plot of Courage the Cowardly Dog and a lot of horror movies, to be fair. But, you know, I think that the threat, both in Courage the Cowardly Dog and in Creepypastas, is often so nonsensical to the people around the protagonist that they're never going to take them seriously. Whether it's, like, you know, the adults ignoring Sam and Nebraska, which some of them are in on that. Or, like, Blue Jay in the Left-Right game, just fully not believing things even though they're clearly happening in front of her. You see that a lot. Because within Creepypasta, there's some weird grounding in reality, because so many of them are posted on, like, Reddit or, you know, different forums and things, and they're all, you know, going back to Ted the Caver. Ted the Caver was actually believable. Now, is, like, some of these are believable. Like, Pen Pal, sure, Pen Pal could be believable. You know, no, Jeff the Killer is not believable. You know, Tommy Taffy is not believable. And that's okay. Maybe for the latter, not the former. But the inherent grounding in reality makes it that a lot of secondary characters often think that the protagonist is crazy or losing it, and that's why they end up coming to, you know, Reddit asking for help. Now, Courage, it's just because he's kind of like the boy who cried wolf, you know? He's always nervous, something's always scaring him, and Eustace just doesn't like him, and Muriel's kind of oblivious. So that's just kind of the standard setup. So it's not quite the same reason that it's happening, but it is happening in both Creepypastas and Courage the Cowardly Dog. You know, in Freaky Fred specifically, Muriel is totally oblivious to the fact that Fred is a fucking weirdo, and Eustace knows he is, but is totally fine putting him and Courage, like, alone in that bathroom together. So this is gonna lead to my next point, and I want you to bear with me, because I'm going to sound like them dumb bitches that will sit there in full sincerity and tell you that the Rugrats are just a figment of Angelica's mind, she's mentally ill. But that's what Creepypasta does to an MF, okay? But I'm going... Everything I'm about to say, I want you to know that I sound internet brain rotted, but I have to say it, okay? And I know I'm not the only one that read it this way, because I went on Reddit to make sure I wasn't the only one that read it this way. So, on to my next trope. Potential for the story to cover or be a metaphor for a very real-world problem that is perhaps too heavy for the material to be covering. In this case, Freaky Fred can be read, and I didn't read this until I rewatched it, of course, why would I think this as a child? It can be read as commentary on abuse at the hands of a family member. Now, Fred is Muriel's nephew, so he is a family member that is inherently trusted just because he's a family member, despite the fact that they don't really know him. She hasn't seen him in a long time. Eustace is already distrustful of him. But, you know, still was whatever, it's Muriel's family, we'll let him be around. He has a compulsion to cut hair, which is the act of taking something from someone without their consent. In this case, the victim is the most vulnerable member of the family, Courage. He's a dog, but he is the stand-in for Muriel's son. You see what I am saying, correct? Yes. Creepypasta does this shit all the time. And the thing about the way that Courage handles this is you don't have to read it that way. You can literally read this episode at face value and be like, he's a freaky barber, and call it a day. Creepypasta sometimes inserts heavy topics in a way that you cannot separate the heavy topic from the story. They're not always metaphors. Sometimes it's just like, take this horrible thing and read it. Sometimes Creepypasta handles heavy topics really, really well. On the topic of the things we're talking about with Freaky Fred, we have Baraska and Pen Pal. Those are two stories that genuinely handle really heavy real-world topics, I think in a respectful way, but in a way that still make them horrifying. And you know, those are two that have been published as books. So we're dealing with a lot more sophisticated level of writing with those two. But then on the other hand, you have creepypastas where it almost feels exploitative. You have everybody's favorite Squidward's End of Life, which deals with, you know, a myriad of horrific real-world consequences, such as taking your own life, abuse, murder. It's a lot, and it's just so jarring and ridiculous, and there is no story without all of those elements, right? And then, like, even on a less, you know, gruesome scale, you have things like Ticky Toby, which are taking a very real, you know, disability and turning it into, like, an evil superpower, and he's bullied for... I'm not touching Ticky Toby with a fucking 10-foot pole, man. It's ableist and weird. I don't know, but you get what I'm saying. There's a whole range of creepypastas not handling sensitive real-world subjects well. Now, again, I'm like... I don't know if I like the read that that's what Freaky Fred is about. But again, because you can fully separate it just being like, hey, this is funny and silly and weird, and oh, this is a metaphor for CSA, you know, the ability to separate makes it very easy to consume. You know, one that I would compare this to, just because the whole idea of a visitor coming in and being freaky, though, is Tommy Taffy. And that's one where I'm of two minds about Tommy Taffy. I think it's really scary. That's a creepypasta about this, like, giant toy man that comes and is a third parent to a family and is very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. That's all I'm gonna say. It's very uncomfortable. That's a case where you can't separate the bad things from Tommy Taffy. It's not a metaphor, it's the plot. So, you know, and that's not a bad thing, but you gotta be ready and willing to handle that when you read that, whereas Freaky Fred stands on his own legs as just being a freaky barber and nothing more. So, weird, Angelica's the only real Rugrat phase over, ending, done, I'm moving on, thank you. But I will say, you know, if there was intention for this metaphor or subtext to actually be there, I think it's handled fine. A kid is not gonna get it unless, unfortunately, they do, and if that's the case, maybe they can empathize with Courage, or it'll be a good coping mechanism. But again, it's handled well, and it's one of the good ones because you're dealing with good writers who have lived experiences and things like that. The reason a lot of times in creepypastas that it doesn't play out well, it's because they're written by kids who either don't have the lived experience and are trying to deal with writing things that they think are scary and, you know, messed up, or they maybe do have the lived experience, but they're just not good writers because they're, you know, 11 or 12. So that's just the inherent thing about creepypasta. So last trope we have here is really just the description of creepypasta in general, which is riding the line between being genuinely chilling and stupid as f***. Now, that's what this episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog is. But I say stupid as f*** as a compliment because it's a comedy show. So it's going between being genuinely uncomfortable and being really funny. Not stupid as in bad. Silly is a better word for the instance of this trope in Courage. Because, like, annoying, weird, internet-pilled metaphor aside, Fred is just weird and uncomfortable. Like, you don't want a guy to shave your head who keeps repeating that he's naughty over and over again. You just don't want that. But it's funny because he keeps saying, like, the way that he ends every sentence with naughty, the home for freaky barbers, it's funny. Cutting to Eustace tanning on the beach, funny, you know? So this show does that really well, and that's something you see throughout Courage, and I think that's why, as a child who was very timid and afraid of horror, those moments of levity made me be able to get through the show, right? Now, in Creepypasta, when it's silly, it's stupid. You know, Jeff the Killer is a prime example of this, because the story of Jeff the Killer is one of the stupidest, most painful to read creepypastas out there, but, and you all know this, if you're a frequent Glitch Witch viewer, that image of Jeff the Killer scares the shit out of me still. So there is something that's genuinely scary about it. And I think you see that in a lot of creepypasta, where sometimes they're genuinely really freaky and spooky, like the Russian sleep experiment is a great example of that. Like, it's a really pretty compelling story, and then that monologue at the end is so silly and just kind of laughable, it ruins the whole thing and takes you out of it. So this trope tends to be, this is a positive thing when it comes to a horror comedy show like Courage, but it is the detriment of most creepypastas. And most of my favorite creepypastas don't have this, you know, like Baraska, there's not really a funny moment. Pen Pal, not really a funny moment. Smile Dog, like, is one of those where, because I love Smile Dog, y'all, I love it, but it's like, Smile Dog as a concept is stupid, but when you actually like read it and think about it, it's not. It's really cool, and it's very like old school internet. That's my list of tropes. I guess I'm asking for Freaky Fred to formally be able to go to the Slender Mansion and join all the creepypasta guys. So please start drawing anime Dream Boy fan art of Freaky Fred for me, so that he can join the likes of Jeff the Killer and Smiling Jack and all those divas. I would appreciate it. But no, my point essentially is, I think that, you know, Courage is just one example of early spooky media that is directly responsible for forming, you know, creepypasta and internet horror as we know it today. Creepypasta is definitely something that comes more from my generation than, you know, a lot of analog horror and digital horror is coming from the generation below me. But, you know, we all build upon each other, and I think that's great. But it was just really, like, heartwarming to know that I've been into this type of horror since I was a kid, and that it kind of never really left me. It just morphed into a different shape, and I would love for John Dilworth to, like, make, like, an analog horror series or something. I know he still uploads animations on YouTube. So I think it would be really cool if he, you know, come be part of the community, John. We would love to have you. It'd be really cool. But, you know, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if there are any other shows you watched as a kid that you feel like line up with this whole, like, proto-creepypasta vibe that I'm talking about. If you were a fan of Courage the Cowardly Dog, please tell me what your favorite episodes were. I think Freaky Fred is like a no-brainer for me now, but I always loved Mask. I love the Perfect. Rewatched Perfect recently, and the monologue that the fish in the bathtub gives literally gave me an existential crisis, and I started crying. That's where I'm at right now. And as always, if there are any series, like analog or digital horror series that you're interested in me covering, please comment below. If there's any creepypastas you would like me to cover, I would like to cover more creepypastas. And that seems to be something that my members were interested in, because I put out a poll for my 2 higher tier membership levels, and they wanted more creepypasta than analog horror this week, so that's why you've got this video. And if you would like to be a member, there's a little join button down there next to the subscribe button. You should definitely hit the subscribe button. The join button, up to you. I'm not going to pressure you to give me money. That's a personal decision. Subscribe, it's no skin off your back, right? You just see this face more, which I know is probably horrifying to some of you. But I do want to take a moment to thank my lovely members. We have the Creepypasta OCs on screen. This is an episode for y'all. And then we have, in Survival Horror Emo, we have E-Rob, Odini, and So-Called Punk. And then in Analog Horror Scary Face, we have Kira Coffer. So thank you so much to my members. And thank you all so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. It means a lot. It's super helpful. I'm not sure if this video will be monetized or not, because I'm not sure where courage stands with copyright these days. But yes, if you're a classic Glitch Witch fan subscriber, you'll know that the the goblin who stole my red strips of hair appeared 3 nights ago, and he glued them back onto my head. So they're back. I can say thank you, Goblin. We love a real life, true goblin, because they are real and they are caught on tape. And on Glitch Witch Burn Watch 2024, I no longer have to cover it up. If you missed it on the last video, which you should go watch, it was a good video. I got a 2nd degree burn from a low country boil. So it looks worse than it feels now. So we're healing, we're growing. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day, and don't try to shave anyone or you will be put in the home for freaky barbers, and you don't want to go there. I don't know, maybe it's nice, maybe it's a cool place. I'm not sure. Anyway, bye.